We know from the media that many a time, two different labels are given to the same individual for the same activity. For example, more than 60 years back, there were many Indians who were fighting for the freedom of the country. These people, by the British government, they were called as terrorists. But we common Indians, we call these people as freedom fighters, as patriots. Same people, same activity, but two different labels. If you agree with the view of the British government that they had the right to rule over India, then you have to call these people as terrorists. But if you agree with the view of the common Indians that Britishers came to India to do business, they have no right to rule over us, then you have to call these people as patriots, you have to call these people as freedom fighters. Same people, same activity, but two different labels. And I very often attend the media, and while having interaction with the Indian press, I asked them a question, that do you consider Bhagat Singh as a terrorist? So he said no. I said, why? The same Western media, when they call Bhagat Singh as a terrorist, you say no, he's not a terrorist. Why? Because you know the background of the history of India's freedom. Even I consider Bhagat Singh as not to be a terrorist. But the same Western media, today, when they call Muslims, they say, why do you agree? Have you done research? They start to laugh. Quran says in Surah Hujurat, chapter 49, verse number 6, whenever you get information, you check it up before you pass to the third person. The point to be noted is that when the British government called Bhagat Singh a terrorist, you didn't agree. Now why would you agree with them? Why these double standards? And you have several such examples. When we read the history of the American Revolution, in 1775, during the American Revolution, George Washington, he was called as the terrorist number one by the British government when the British was ruling America. The Britishers called George Washington as terrorist number one. Later on, when America gets its freedom, George Washington is made the president of USA. Imagine, terrorist number one becomes the president of USA. And he happens to be the godfather of all the presidents to come, including George Bush. And you find several such examples, several. You have the example of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, several decades earlier, when South Africa was ruled by the white apartheid government, Nelson Mandela was arrested and was imprisoned in Robben Islands for more than 25 years. By the white apartheid government, Nelson Mandela was called as terrorist number one. Later on, when South Africa gets its freedom and the white apartheid government is removed, Nelson Mandela is given freedom and he gets the Nobel Prize for Peace. Imagine, terrorist number one of the world gets the Nobel Prize for Peace. Not that he was bad and he became good. For the same activity for what he was called a terrorist, 30 years later, he gets the Nobel Prize for the same activity, Nobel Prize for Peace. So we realize whoever is in power, whatever label that person gives, that gets stuck on to that person. This is media. Media is very powerful. According to me, it is the most important weapon today. It can convert black into white, day into night, hero into a villain, villain into a hero. This is media.